welcome back everybody. Today we're going over the long-awaited Glock 43. It's a single stack 9mm pistol from Glock. A while back we did a video comparing it to the Shield, but this one we're going to get into detailed on just this particular gun. So we're going to focus on it. We'll do some size comparisons, weight comparisons, stuff like that. What we're going to do is just keep shooting the pistol and then get into a close-up look at what makes this pistol, this particular gun, go over some of the features of it, break it down, put it back together, come back at the end and let you know what we think of it overall. Go over a few details of the pistol. We'll start with the slide. You can see here it's pretty classic Glock. Overall, the width of the pistol is just over an inch, but that's really right down here in the frame. The slide's going to be a little bit more narrow than that, and the slide itself has a nice nitrocarburized finish. That's going to give you good corrosion resistance, as well as give you a pretty nice matte black finish overall. This one here, the slide really hasn't shown much wear at all, and we've been carrying this one a good bit. You can see the extractor starting to show some, but the slide's holding up pretty well, so I'm certainly happy with that. Moving on to the mag release, it's oversized Gen 4 configuration. It's very easy to activate and the mag pops out with authority. It comes with two mags, both 6-round. One of them is going to be the standard flat here, flat base plate I should say, and the other one has a finger hook, but it doesn't add any capacity to it. So that's one thing some folks have sort of not been happy about. One thing that is nice is that it does have the Gen 4 texturing on here, although I will say I have many Gen 4 pistols, and this is a little bit lighter than some of the standard full-size Gen 4s. So it's sort of in between Gen 4 and the Gen 3, if you will, in terms of grippiness. Some folks I know are going to want to add the Talon grips on there. Certainly wouldn't be a bad idea, but it does give you a little bit better purchase than some of the Gen 3 pistols would if your hands are sweaty or if you're under stress or bloody or whatever the case may be there. Disassembly of the pistol is standard Glock. What you're going to want to do is make sure your pistol is not loaded. It isn't. You're going to point in a safe direction, pull the trigger, and while we're on that note, the trigger on this pistol breaks right at 6 pounds on my scale. Some folks are reporting a little bit higher pull. My personal one here, right at 6 pounds. So not too heavy, not too light. A little bit heavier than most Glocks on my scale anyway. You're going to pull back about 1/8 of an inch, pull down these two tabs here at the same time, release the slide, comes right off. You can see we have the double recoil spring there. It's all steel. Pull our barrel out, and this barrel here is also cold hammer forged. It has hexagonal rifling on there, but other than that, it looks pretty standard Glock stuff with the John Browning lockup system. But as you can see, that is your pistol broken down. One advantage of Glocks is very simple maintenance, no getting around it. They're very easy pistols to use, maintain, require very little maintenance to run, and the 43 is no exception to that. There's a couple differences on this pistol versus your standard pistol in terms of how the parts are set up. One thing that's definitely different is the connector here in the rear. It's just a different shape. Additionally, the trigger spring is different as well. This one sort of has a leaf spring. I'm sure you guys can go out there and find detail strip videos where we'll show it in detail, but it's different. So the trigger pull feels a little bit different, if you will, than the Glock one. The brake's still pretty clean, but there's a little bit more pressure required during the uptake process, and that's due to the different geometry. Back here in the rear, they had to sort of compress the typical Glock trigger mechanism back here to get it to fit in the smaller frame. Additionally, the striker safety here is different in terms of shape than it would be on the regular one. The regular one, of course, is completely round, and this one sort of has an oval shape to it, and that's due to just getting it to fit in the smaller slide. But reassembly of the pistol, just as simple as your traditional Glocks. Put our barrel in there, recoil spring in there. It's a double recoil spring like we mentioned earlier. And one thing that is going to do, and I should point that out, is for folks who are looking for this pistol to be used by, you know, a lady friend, or if you're a lady out there looking for a pistol because it's small, that's all fine and good. One thing I'll tell you is it makes the slide a little bit harder to rack. My wife has a real hard time running the slide on this and manipulating it during recoil. I should say during malfunction drills that we did with it. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes smaller isn't better, especially for the smaller statured shooters out there. Size and weight are certainly going to be primary concerns for this pistol, so we have it loaded up here, 6 in the mag and 1 in the chamber. We do have a loaded chamber indicator, which is this little piece right here that sticks out, letting you know there's a round in the chamber. Even in low light conditions, you can actually feel it. So we'll put it on the scale here and let you know what that looks like loaded. Now you can see right there, it's 1 pound and 5 ounces. That's the loaded pistol. Now one thing I want to compare it to is just a Smith & Wesson 642, I believe that is, and that's fully loaded with 5 rounds. You get it a little bit lighter, but of course you get less rounds. And just size wise, you can see the pistols there. Of course the revolver's going to be a little bit thinner, but down there in the cylinder it is going to be fatter for sure. Here's the pistol unloaded. You can see what it weighs in at 1.2 ounces, 1 pound 2 ounces I should say. And here's the Shield 9mm unloaded with the magazine. You can certainly see that one there is going to be a little bit heavier at 1 pound 4 ounces. And here's a Gen 4 Glock 26, 1 pound 5.6 ounces. Those are the weights, and of course, size-wise, these are the two pistols that are always going to be compared together. It's the Shield and the 43. I did a very detailed video on that, guys, if you're looking for all the specs and how they shoot and all that stuff, so check that video out. It's actually one of my most popular videos ever. But of course, the Shield is going to give you 1 more round with the standard capacity magazine now. These have become very popular. They're the Terran Tactical extensions. This is the +1. And we also have a +2 here with the Terran Tactical extensions. Even with the +1 in there, so giving it 7 +1 in terms of capacity, it's pretty much the exact same size as the Shield. Height wise, no difference really at all there. So if you add that, of course it's an aftermarket part, it really does kind of make the pistols a little bit more comparable. But without it, the 43 is certainly a little bit more pocketable, if you will, due to that smaller overall profile, but you're giving up a round, so pros and cons each way. And the Glock 26 is the original baby Glock. You can see here, this is a Gen 4 model. Really, if you stack them on top of each other, they look pretty similar in terms of size, just looking at them. But of course, the big difference is going to be right there. The 26 is as fat as any of the other Glocks, which really isn't too bad, actually. But the 43, you can see there is a much slimmer profile. And I know a lot of people say, like, you know, who can't carry a Glock 26, or who says a Glock 26 is too big to carry? Why would you ever want a 43? Well, I mean, I understand that. Actually, the 26, the Gen 3 version anyway, is probably the pistol I carried the most of any gun out there. I do carry a few, to include the 43, but it certainly is easier in some situations to carry the 43. No getting around it, it is. Now, you're certainly giving up capacity, pros and cons each way, but the 26, even after all these years, is still a great option. Longtime viewers to the channel know that I am not a fan of Glock sights. I tend to like Glocks, but the sights, in my opinion, the factory ones just kind of suck. The plastic on them tends to break. I've seen them break more than any other Glock part in my years of shooting, and I really don't like the sight picture personally. So we upgrade almost all of our Glock sights, especially if we're going to use them for defensive purposes. And this one, we added the Wilson Combat Vickers Tactical sights on there. I really like these. They come in several different offerings with fiber optic, gold bead, plain black all up front, as well as the tritium, which is what we have here. And the rear, I think they have a couple options as well. We went with the plain black. The serrations on there are really nice, and they just draw your eye to that front sight. Also has a very nice ledge here for doing one-hand manipulation should you need to do so. And the back's not so sharp that if you're wearing it inside the waistband, it's going to cut you up like some sights do. So I'm a big fan of these. I think they also offer these in 3-dot configurations for night sights, but I like the plain black rear personally. Again, sights a lot of times are just personal preference there, but these ones certainly are a high quality option, and we have a full review on these. If you guys are looking for that, we'll put a link in the video description as well. I personally carry the pistol either at the 4 o'clock position or inside my pocket. If I'm wearing some like cargo shorts or something a little bit loose, we can put it in the front pocket, but generally speaking, I've been carrying it in this holster here from RKBA Holsters. You can see it has good molding to it. And one thing I like about it is that it's high enough up so that those Wilson sights work in there just fine and clear holster without any sort of issue. This one's here just a single hook Kydex, and we've had 0 issues with it at all. You can see even in the holster, very slim profile overall, and sort of disappears under most t-shirts. For any self-defense pistol, one thing I always focus on is going to be reliability. This one here has ate up anything we've put in it so far. The majority of that's been the Minuteman Munitions 115 grain ammo, but we ran Wolf 115 grain, the steel case stuff through it, Federal HSTs, Federal Gold Dots, both 124 grain, as well as some 135 grain Hordity Critical Duty, both standard pressure and plus P, and Winchester Ranger, I think 147 grain. Those are all the defensive rounds we put through it. It's had zero issues at all, ran all of them perfectly, and that includes with the Terran Tactical base plates. I know some folks have reported problems with the plus twos. I haven't had any problems with either. That said, the plus one, in my opinion, probably due to the way the spring length is probably going to be the more reliable of the two, but the plus two, like we said here, we've had zero issues with it at all, but just reporting what I've read out there on the internet. So we all know if it's on the internet, it's true. Really like the pistol overall. Obviously, like we talked about, people have been waiting for this one to come out for years. It's been rumored for at least 10 years, and it finally came out. So overall, really like it. It's very shootable. A lot of small guns have terrible triggers, have terrible sights. We went over the sights. This one, of course, has upgraded sights, and we certainly like those. They make the pistol more shootable, give you a nice sight picture, even in low light. For a gun of this size, it's one of the most shootable ones out there, without question. Price-wise, this one we picked up over at GT Distributors. I think they're $449 for regular civilian prices, if you will. And I know they offer the Blue Label discount as well for folks who that applies to. If it applies to you and you don't know, or you don't know if it applies to you, just Google Blue Label program, and it'll come up and it'll list everybody who it's available to. It's military, law enforcement, firefighters, security folks, lots of other people. So just check it out if you're wondering if you're on the list. But all in all, gun shoots super well. It's reliable. It's relatively low recoiling for a gun of this size. Of course, a gun of this size and this weight is going to have a little bit more snappiness than say like a Glock 26. It's just what it is, but it's certainly not something that you can't handle. But like I mentioned earlier, if you have a sort of a smaller stature shooter or somebody who's a little bit weaker with grip strength, definitely have them run that slide a few times and see if they can do manipulations with it, because some folks, like my wife, do have problems with it. All in all, it's a good gun. It's a Glock. It works like it's supposed to. Haven't seen any reports of issues out there like we saw with the early Gen 419s. This one seems to work just fine out of the box. And I think that's about it. If you guys have any questions about the pistol that we didn't cover here in the video, by all means, you can post below in the comments section. You can always post over at my Facebook page. But thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and do so. I truly appreciate it. And I hope to see you in the next video.